Hi, Dave here, and in this video I want to do a little test between Sontronics mics and Rode mics, so let's check it out. So I've been using Sontronics for many years, and I've been using Rode for many years. In my studio I have far too many Rode microphones. I've got the NT USB Mini, which I've done a review for before. I've got two PodMics, one here and then one on my decks behind. I've got the NT1-A plus other things like the wireless Goes ×2, the Rodecaster Pro. I think I have a Rode problem. But I've also been checking out the Podcast Pro by Sontronics and the STC-3X. Now, Sontronics kindly lent me these for a review, and I've been testing them for quite a number of weeks now, so thank you, Sontronics. This is a completely impartial test, and I just wanted to see what they sounded like and what people prefer. There are some differences, but I've battled the dynamics together, and I've battled the condensers together, of course. Now, the condenser mics are a little bit of an unfair battle, but I'll get to that in a minute. Let's have a look at the dynamics. So we have the Rode PodMic, and we have the Sontronics Podcast Pro. Now, with these two condenser mics, they're roughly the same price. The PodMic from Rode is extremely heavy, very robust, very solid, very heavy, and very similar to the Podcast Pro from Sontronics. However, it's extremely light in comparison, and it comes in different colours. We have lots of different colours. It came out last year as a little Christmas thing, and it's so popular that they've put it into production, so well done Sontronics for that. So let's have a look at their price and their weight and their specs and everything. So here's the Red Podcast Pro from Sontronics. You can see it's £99 from this particular page. And if you scroll down, you can see the specs on the website there: dynamic, supercardioid, etc, etc. And the weight is 356 grams. These are all the nice colours that it comes in: red, gold, green, blue, purple, grey and black. Then if we look at the Rode PodMic, we got £97.50 there. If you take a look at the weight, and it's 937 grams. That's what I was saying about the weight. It's nearly a kilo. It's crazy. If you take a look at the mics side by side, you'll notice the Sontronics is slightly taller, but they're pretty much the same size. You'll see the different grill patterns here, and obviously the tightening knobs on the either side. The Rode is a lot larger, so it's actually a bit easier to tighten. If you take a look at the top, you'll see that the Rode is obviously completely mesh, and you've got the nice grids there on the Sontronics. And then the XLRs are in the same place, and it's pretty much the same distance to get the cable in, but a right angle cable wouldn't go amiss on these. Now, before we get onto the sound check, let's do the same for the condensers. Now, like I said, this is a little bit unfair because I have the Rode NT1-A, and that is cheaper than the STC-3X by Sontronics. If it was a like-for-like comparison, I'd go for the NT1, but I don't have it, and I don't have the money to buy it, so it's close enough. When you buy the NT1-A and the STC-3X, you get the mic, obviously, you get a cable, you get a pop shield, and you get the cradle. But if you check out the price comparison, you'll see that the STC is a bit more expensive. The STC-3X has three polar patterns: the Omni, Cardioid, and Figure of 8. It has a 3-stage pad, which is 0, -10, and -20 dB, and a 3-stage filter, which is linear, 75 Hz, and 150 Hz. In comparison, the Rode NT1-A has one unidirectional polar pattern and no other selections. So the sound check, I'm going to run through all the mics, and I'm also going to do the windshields, pop shields as well. So as you can see here, I've got the Podcast Pro with a windshield on top. Now, the PodMic and the Podcast Pro, I'm going to get that wrong in a second, have pop shields in them, but you'll hear whether you think you need them or not. I have used this for a few weeks, and I've used the PodMic for a few years, or whenever it came out, a year, and I've needed it on both. But you can listen to that, and it will dip down the volume, but I think it's worth it to get rid of all the plosives. Everything I'm running through the same channel in the Rodecaster Pro, and I am making sure that all the levels match in there. So obviously I have to turn one up, one down, and phantom power obviously for the condensers. I'm using the same arm, and I'm going to be doing some bang tests because this is the Rode PSA 1, which I really like. I've got a few of them around. I use them for lights as well as mics, But the problem is it's metal connected to metal, so therefore it can ring. So we've got that sound. So I'm going to test that, and I know that the condensers are going to do better for the cradles, and also I'm going to use the cradle from the Sontronics and not the Rode, because it's better quality and I can't fit the Sontronics into the Rode one. Also, it'd be useful to know how much noise goes through the cable and also the mic being tapped as well. So it should be a fairly even controlled test, shall we say. So let's do a little comparison. So here we have the Podcast Pro from Sontronics. So I'm going to flip down to the next channel and we're going to start reading. Dave is David Clarke, a DJ, live performer and tutor from London, UK. A truly unique cross-genre, cross-platform artist specialising in drum and bass. His clever and well thought out sets deliver every time to ever expectant crowds. Also, I'm going to check out the ring here. Tapping the desk. And this is without the windshield. Dave is David Clarke, a DJ, live performer and tutor from London, UK. A truly unique cross-genre, cross-platform specialising in drum and bass. His clever and well thought out sets deliver every time to ever expectant crowds. This is now the Rode PodMic with the windshield on. Dave is David Clarke, a DJ, live performer and tutor from London, UK. A truly unique cross-genre, cross-platform artist specialising in drum and bass. His clever and well thought out sets deliver every time to ever expectant crowds. And we're going to do the tap. Now we have it without the windshield. Dave is David Clarke, a DJ, live performer and tutor from London, UK. A truly unique cross-genre, cross-platform artist specialising in drum and bass. His clever and well thought out sets deliver every time to ever expectant crowds. Dave is David Clarke, a DJ, live performer and tutor from London, UK. A truly unique cross-genre, cross-platform artist specialising in drum and bass. His clever, well thought out sets deliver every time to ever expectant crowds. I'm going to do the tap. And this one's without the pop shield. Dave is David Clarke, a live DJ, live performer and tutor from London, UK. A truly unique cross-genre, cross-platform artist specialising in drum and bass. His clever, well thought out sets deliver every time to ever expectant crowds. And this is the Rode NT1-A. Dave is David Clarke, a live DJ, live performer and tutor from London, UK. A truly unique cross-genre, cross-platform artist specialising in drum and bass. His clever and well thought out sets deliver every time to get ever expectant crowds. And I'll just do the taps. And this is without the pop shield. Dave is David Clarke, a live DJ, live performer and tutor from London, UK. A truly unique cross-genre, cross-platform artist specialising in drum and bass. His clever and well thought out sets deliver every time to ever expectant crowds. So there we have some testing. It's not completely scientific, but it gives you a good idea. Now, I'm not going to tell you which one is the best because it's completely up to you. I have to say, out of the condensers, the Sontronics wins it hands down for me, because if you listen to it back, I find the NT1-A very muddy, very mid-rangey, whereas this is a lot clearer, and I haven't even checked out the polar patterns yet. I would use this all the time if I was in a studio, a proper studio, but I actually have this room in our house, and I have a 2-year-old, and he's quite loud, and these are obviously a lot more sensitive than the dynamics. So I use the dynamics a lot more for teaching and recording, but if I was to do anything professional, I would definitely have this and go somewhere quieter. Don't get me wrong, I've used this a lot and it's done a very good job. And the Sontronics is £100-ish more expensive, depending on if you get the black or the silver, because it's £20 cheaper if you get the silver one. But you get a pack and you get a good cradle with it, and you get a good pop shield. These are absolutely fine, and I do recommend these to my students as well. And you can always EQ it afterwards as well. Now, when it comes to the dynamic, it's a little bit different because I do like both of them. Now, like I said, this is very heavy, and I've carried these to podcast recordings before, 2 of them, and it gets weighty. I don't know. I would say that out of the 2, if I was to leave one setup all the time, I think I'd just have to go for the Rode. Because it is heavier and thicker, it has less transition when it comes to the rings going through the arms, because I've got everything clamped onto desks. Obviously, that would change if I had things on the floor and free floating and all that kind of stuff. But I think this would just win it out for me for the static setup. But if I was to take anything out and about, I'd probably take the Podcast Pro because of the weight, and also it is still a very good mic. But what did you think? Comment below, which one did you prefer from the condensers and the dynamics? Obviously bearing in mind the cost, but when it comes to the sound quality, which one would you go for? So if you like this video, please do like and subscribe, and thank you very much Sontronics for loaning me these for my reviews. Please stay safe, and I will see you next time. And that's why I use a dynamic mic.